Chapter 8. The sun had started its descent not long ago. Hannah walked the streets, nothing outside any less normal than before. Not that it should be. She observed every face as she walked. They seemed so foreign, distant. When Hannah entered the market district, she unconsciously discovered herself looking at the apothecary and then at the broken light in the lamppost. Hannah sighed. She walked into the bakery, the jingling of the bell almost pushing her beyond her limits. It was a nostalgic sound, one which always awakened the joyous character within her, for the sound symbolized a friend, walking through the door or leaving after having been served. She knew she'd missed the sound. A few older gentlemen sat at a table in the corner, gossiping about their neighbors and ranting about the good old days and how they were gone. A young woman stood at the counter examining the pastries, unable to decide which to take home to her family. Hannah's mother exited the kitchen, beginning her welcome when she realized who it was. She walked over from behind the counter, Hannah standing still near the door, the shock setting in. "Hannah, what's wrong? How did it go?" her mother questioned with a note of urgency, seeing the expression worn by her distraught daughter. She saw the tears begin to form in Hannah's eyes. She whispered, "Let's go into the kitchen." Hannah nodded and bit her lip, feeling as if she'd regressed into a child, her mother needing to comfort her. But Hannah didn't mind. She was weak, and if it took the strength of her mother to help her through, she'd willingly accept it. "What's the matter, honey?" her mother asked once they were in the kitchen, embracing Hannah up close next to her, running her hand through her hair. Even now, Hannah thought, unable to speak, even now she abandons her own feelings to care for me. Why can't she tell me how much she hurts? But maybe that's the trick, lying to yourself for so long that you forget about it, never claiming it in order to maintain your own stability. Maybe if I hide the pain for long enough, I'll grow numb to it too. And with this thought and the culmination of her emotions and her mother's words of comfort, Hannah broke down. Tears flooded from her. "Oh no," her mother mumbled, rocking Hannah back and forth. "It's all right. I know you're innocent. My good girl, I'll fight for you with every fiber of my being. No amount of dishonor would make me abandon my baby. Oh, Hannah." Hannah felt herself trembling uncontrollably. She wanted to speak up, to inform her mother, but she couldn't find the energy nor had the ability to do so. Would her mother be angry or upset, believing she was misled by Hannah's reaction? Or would she understand? No, Hannah thought. No one could understand because it's foolish. Not only was I granted innocence by the royal court, but I was personally asked by the prince to wed him, to become queen. I should be nothing but excited, joyous, blessed, honored. But why? What is this feeling? The bell at the front door jingled. Hannah's mother perked her head up to see who had entered. "I'll be right back," her mother whispered in her ear. She stood and welcomed the customers as well as serving those already within. Hannah had counted 4 bell jingles before her mother returned to her side. The tears had since stopped. Her heart had calmed and her breathing had returned to normal. Only her thoughts continued to pull at her. And no matter the thought, she felt she had only one option. Hannah looked into her mother's eyes and expressed the largest, brightest smile she could possibly conjure up, no matter how painful. "I'm going to be queen," Hannah stated in a light tone. Her mother pulled back and looked at her with a mix of shock and confusion, as if she understood the smile to be forced. But, given the statement, she could think of no way this could be so, perhaps a misunderstanding on her part. "Congratulations, oh Hannah!" Her mother embraced her, no more out of sympathy, but out of pride. "If you had said that first, I wouldn't have been so worried." "Sorry," Hannah replied. "I didn't mean to upset you. I was simply so happy." At the news, her mother began to tear up. Hannah didn't know why, but this caused a sharp stinging in her heart. Her mother cried tears of joy, when only a few moments earlier Hannah herself had been crying tears of despair. The difference in atmosphere altered for her mother, but Hannah felt it to be no different. The situation had not changed. No, Hannah thought, perhaps it is colder than before. "I am so proud of you, oh!" Hannah's mother stood and looked into the storefront. Hannah gazed at her mother and saw a genuinely happy smile. The pain had left for a time. Hannah could say nothing. We'll close the bakery early tonight and celebrate, unless... When are you expected to be back at the castle? When is the wedding? Will we have time to contact your father? I don't know, Hannah mumbled. She cleared her throat and stood before continuing. I mean to say, the prince gave me time, to tell family and friends. Hannah paused. She blinked a few times, wondering if she was awake. The last statement felt empty. How sweet of him. He must be so charming. Having known his father, I wouldn't expect any less. Do you remember when the king would come to talk to your grandfather? He loved the pastry. Oh, customers, I'll be right back. Hannah's mother walked out of the kitchen, a slight prance in her step. Hannah expressed a half grin before turning her head to the ground. When the timer on the oven rang, Hannah removed the bread, allowing it to cool. The smell of the fresh loaf, the heat of the oven brushing her face, the sensations used to feel natural, surfacing old memories, but it felt distant, as if it were fading. Hannah placed the loaves on cooling racks and exited the kitchen. Her mother attended to customers with a friendly, welcoming smile, the customers mirroring her contagious happiness. Hannah took a place beside her mother, sharing in their joy for a moment. I'm going to head out now, Hannah stated. Once again, she felt numb. Her emotions had drained during her breakdown earlier, and nothing was left. Just remember to come home early tonight. We need to celebrate, her mother exclaimed in what Hannah would call a squeaky tone. The customers asked about the cause for celebration, and her mother began telling in an extravagant, proud manner. Hannah snuck out before anyone was able to ask questions or offer congratulations. She wanted to hear no more of it. When her mother arrived home that evening, Hannah had been laying in her bed, staring at the ceiling. She heard the door open and close, but chose to continue laying there. Hannah had no desire to move. Rather, she wished to lay there forever. Her mother knocked on her bedroom door before entering. What are you doing lying about? She asked, hands on hips. And what's this doing here? She asked as she removed the blanket covering the mirror. Hannah had covered it the moment she entered the room. Her reflection always did bother her, but at least before it was bearable. However, at that time, her reflection was unendurable, though she wasn't quite sure if it was even herself she saw in the reflection. Weren't you going to invite Nina over to celebrate tonight? She was busy, Hannah lied. Oh, how disappointing. But we won't allow that to spoil our fun. I brought home some pastries, just like the kind the late king enjoyed. Perhaps you can take some back to the prince as well, her mother suggested. She noticed the lack of reaction from Hannah and sat on the bed beside her. Is something the matter, honey? I'm just tired. Hannah lied again. She lazily sat up and connected eyes with her mother. But I won't let that stop me from joining your celebration, or whatever you want to call it. Her mother shared a grateful smile with her, and they both stood and walked to the kitchen. Hannah would tell her mother of her experiences at the ball and in front of the royal court, though she would fail to mention her interaction with Seer. She figured it was not being dishonest to leave parts out, though the more she talked, the louder the issues grew in Hannah's mind. She had not told anyone what Seer had told her about the spell or disease. Not that the matter was insignificant, but Hannah was afraid not only to be associated with a sorcerer, but with some evil magical deed. Involving herself with the matter would only make her life more complicated, when she much rather preferred simplicity. She didn't wish to be involved, but the louder the thoughts grew, the more she realized she was involved, whether she wished it or not. Mother, Hannah whispered, completely changing the tone of their earlier conversation. What is it? Her mother asked in confusion, unsure of the reason of the sudden change. Do you think I'm an honest person? What do you... Well, I mean, yes. But why are you... Wait, don't tell me you've made it all up. No, that's not what I meant, Hannah hurriedly responded, hoping her mother wouldn't begin to doubt the truth or anything which she was about to share. What I should have probably asked was, do you trust me? Why shouldn't I? You've never given me any reason not to. Your brother, on the other hand. So, if I told you something, no matter how unbelievable, and said it was the truth and not some tale, would you believe me? Hannah's eyes glowed with her question, yearning for an answer, particularly the answer she wanted to hear. She didn't know how she would respond if her mother replied with anything but yes. Hannah, what is this? Yes or no, please, Hannah begged, tears beginning to form. Her mother had not even answered, and the truth of the situation was already setting in. Hannah didn't know why, but she trusted Sear's words. Everything he said, though unbelievable, held an undeniable weight to them, one which Hannah, though she would like to, could not deny. No matter her mother's answer to her question, their lives were at risk. The disease could reach them at any moment in time if Sear had already been intercepted. Hannah didn't know how the lamp was to illuminate in times of disaster. So, was it possible that the light wouldn't shine even if Sear had failed? And if the lamppost did light up, what was Hannah to do? Cause a panic in town, warning all within to leave? All because a light that was meant to be broken turned on? She awaited her mother's answer, but soon realized it did not matter. No matter her mother's answer, the situation would not change, but her mother's answer may. Many people say things without ever following through. Her eyes closed and she clenched her fists. To answer yes or no was simple. To abandon town for a period of time and attempt to survive was not. Yes. Hannah opened her eyes and connected them with her mother's. She was not sure if she heard correctly. Hannah's mouth opened, but no words could be formed. If you told me something, her mother began, in a soft, serious tone, no matter how unbelievable it may be, and you told me that you were being truthful, I would believe you. After all, you're like your father, a no-nonsense kind of person. Her mother shared a grin, which Hannah reflected. If you needed me to believe you, I would, or should I say, I will. If you ever need me to believe you, I will. Thank you, Hannah mumbled, not realizing how effective her mother's words were in healing her broken spirit. Hannah rose from her seat. I need to get to bed so I can meet up with Nina in the morning. Good night, my queen, Hannah's mother said. Not quite yet, Hannah replied. But even when it does happen, is it all right if you keep calling me Hannah? Whatever you wish, my darling daughter Hannah. They both laughed. Close enough, Hannah said, before heading to her room and closing the door. The next morning, Hannah awoke and headed to the kitchen, per routine. Van was eating his breakfast alone, their mother having already left. He looked at her and quickly turned away. Are you going to send me to the dungeons once you become queen? You know, since I stole and hid your shoes that one time, or like when I pranked you by putting glue on the bristles of your brush, Van murmured, as if already regretting his actions. Van, Hannah said in an amused tone, just because you're an annoying younger brother who has a crush on one of my friends doesn't mean I'm going to get revenge by sending you to the dungeons of the castle. That would take away the satisfaction of getting revenge. She forced an evil-sounding cackle, and Van rolled his eyes in a mocking manner. Hannah giggled. Are you going to be gone for good, once you become queen? Hannah started, before interrupted. Because your room is bigger than mine, and I was wondering if I could have it. Whatever, Van, she responded. She took a few bites of pastry from the night before and headed out the door. The day was gloomy, complete cloud coverage and lack of sun. There was a chill, and though the clouds appeared like those that float overhead before rain, the air was dry. Hannah sighed. She stuck her hands in her coat pocket to keep them warm and played with the keys as she headed for Nina's house. As she walked up the drive, she noticed Nina's mother outside. Hannah looked around, but didn't see Nina anywhere. Excuse me, Mrs. Mason, do you know where I can find Nina? Hannah asked, almost in a tone of desperation. Yes, dear, she went to the market district to get some money back for her ball gown. Oh. Yes, it seems the prince has taken to some attention-seeking broad, or at least that is what Nina tells me. So she is selling her dress, seeing as she'll no longer need it. Right, Hannah said, tears forming in her eyes. Thank you. She waved goodbye to Nina's mother, her returning it, and headed toward the market district. Hannah knew Nina would be upset, but she refused to allow any matter to completely sever their friendship. As Hannah walked toward dazzling dresses, the shop Nina was said to be, she noticed something off. The apothecary was closed. Hannah couldn't recall a time the store had ever been closed. Her head turned, and she noticed Nina, who stood across from the bakery at the florist's, speaking with Charlotte. Charlotte waved in Hannah's direction, Hannah returning it. The moment Nina saw Hannah, She scowled and dismissed herself from the conversation. Hannah chased after her, hoping they could at least talk. When Hannah got near to Nina, she called out, "Nina, please, let's talk." "About what?" Nina angrily called back. "There's nothing for us to talk about, Your Highness." "Nina, I didn't want this," Hannah replied. Her words made Nina stop and turn to face her. Hannah felt the butterflies in her stomach springing back to life. She thought she had gotten control of her nerves, but nothing could prepare her for a scornful Nina. "You liar!" Nina retorted, her tone spiteful. Her face contorted, and she changed her voice to mock Hannah. "Anyone would be lucky to be with the prince," she said, before returning to her enraged voice once more. "That's what you said, and now you're saying you don't want this? Nina, I don't want to hear it, okay? You knew how much I wanted this. It was all I ever dreamed of, and you just took it away from me." Nina's anger began to dissolve, and a new emotion began to shine through her eyes as the tears formed. Hannah felt the same emotion taking control of her. "I don't want to hear what you have to say. I get it. You're innocent of everything because you're Hannah. You're perfect. You can do no wrong. It was never like that, and you know it," Hannah mumbled, though trying to sound strong. "You were the perfect one who everyone wanted to be like, who everyone admired. It doesn't matter anymore because you're the queen now." "I don't feel like it. I don't even feel like Hannah anymore because I'm missing my best friend." "Well, your loss," Nina pouted and pivoted away from Hannah. She crossed her arms and stood there, forcing herself not to look at her old friend. Hannah longingly stared at Nina's back, wishing for a chance to go back in time and change it all. "Yeah," Hannah replied, no emotion in her voice. "My loss." Hannah turned back the way she had come. She stared at the ground and began to walk away. Nina remained in the same spot for several seconds. Realizing Hannah had left the fight, Nina slowly trudged forward, her ears alert for any further comment she may have to stop to respond. Hannah didn't know what to do next. She felt as though she had lost everything, but then a strange sensation coursed through her, a sudden warmth on the cold day. She raised her head from the ground and looked upward. However, an orange light caused a pause before her eyes met the sky, a flame to illuminate that dreary day. But the warmth soon faded, and a bone-chilling shiver took its place. Hannah froze. Her jaw dropped as she looked at the sight. The flame illuminated from the once broken lamp.